Hello, 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 folks. How are you, Facebook family? Welcome to Healthy Things Grow with Renee and Glenn.
And YouTube.
And
And
YouTube.
you. Yeah.
Party at YouTube. Look. And YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Healthy Things Grow with Renee and Glenn. Tonight we are talking about life isn't a dress rehearsal. It's talking about being in your purpose now, being present right now. And one of the things that I thought about when Glenn saw that we were talking about this particular topic, this is actually a really good chapter because this is a chapter where Glenn starts off in the book talking about essentially why he wrote the book Plan B Sucks. And to be honest with you, I was flabbergasted. And by the end of that little short chapter, I was almost in tears because I was like, wow, we take so much in life for granted. And Glenn and I don't really talk about that word, taking life for granted. So we don't really talk about that concept of taking life for granted. We say it in other places, but we're going to say it plain tonight. That's, we take life for granted. And I hear people always saying the phrase, which I absolutely hate because I'm always in my mind because I am so literal, like when you say this. But when people say, yeah, that was me in another lifetime, I'm always like, why does everybody have so much confidence that another lifetime actually exists? Like, do you know anybody, Glenn, that's ever had done something in another lifetime and came back and talked about it? Or like, I don't know where that term came from. I don't know why people are so confident, why they're more confident about something that hasn't actually, that's never been proven, than they are about the moments that we live in right here and right now. So why we're so confident that we actually will have another opportunity to do something that we've essentially been placed on this earth to do right here and right now is beyond me. But tonight, Glenn is going to enlighten us about why we should have more confidence in the present than we should in that lifetime that, I just don't know anybody that's done it. So I'm just kind of like always confused when people say, yeah, that was me in another lifetime. Yeah, that was in my other life. I'm like, really? Like, how do you realize that is it? And we all know that no one knows anyone that's been in another lifetime and come here to do, to do the actual play, because before that lifetime was a dress rehearsal. So here we are tonight, Glenn, and you're going to talk us through, why life is not, a dress rehearsal, and why we need to take advantage of the life, because God placed us on this earth right now for a reason, and why we need to take advantage of this time, these pivotal moments in our lives that define who we will be when we no longer have breath in our bodies, and why this time is so important to us, and why God didn't say, I put you here for a purpose, for another lifetime, and why he says, I put you here for the today and tomorrow and for the time, no, for this moment. That's why. Okay. All right. So it's all you, Glenn. Thank you so much for always sharing.
Yeah, no, I think I haven't met the other lifetime either. I don't want to dissuade anybody from believing if that's what they want to if that's what they believe. I guess okay. But I think yeah, I think the first chapter is really about this whole idea that we just have this infinite amount of time to do what we were placed on earth to do. And though I do believe that we should really feel as though, if I fail at something, that's just a learning experience. I get up, I do it again, I keep on moving. This isn't a conversation about getting everything perfect, or this isn't a conversation about not failing or resisting the the experience of failure, but it is about understanding that for all we know, we have one life
Mm-hmm.
in this body, in this being, in this what you right now, what you are living in right now. And so, if that's the case, then what are you doing with it?
Right.
And I think more importantly, you know, not only what are you doing with it, but how are you doing it? So I think people say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm.
I think
Wow.
that even when we think about life not being a dress rehearsal and this being the play, like this is it though. This is the play. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only difference is that it's an ongoing play as long as we're blessed to have it. Meaning we're able to wake up today and hopefully you wake up tomorrow and it's just a continuation of a play or a movie or however you want, whatever the metaphor you want to use. That being the case, though, it is in fact real
Mm-hmm.
and it is in fact ongoing. And for me, even though I was knowledgeable of the fact that this is an ongoing experience, it took being presented with something that actually we all are fully aware of,
Mm-hmm.
which is the the presence of and the realness of death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like most of us all who are of sane mind, sound by same mind,
Mm-hmm.
we realize that we will not be here forever.
Right.
But for some reason, we live or we exist in our lives to an extent to where we are not living our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for each of us, there are different experiences that we go through that some will wake us up. There are a number of people that never have that experience. They never wake up to the point of understanding that they are actually living in what is real and
Mm-hmm.
that taking advantage of that is very important. Just for me, though, it just so happened to happen in a way where it kind of just slapped me in the face. And I was like, oh, this thing is real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the answer to when it's going to end. I don't know.
Right.
And at that moment, I realized that I wasn't scared of death. I was sickened and saddened by the fact I wasn't living.
Mm. That's profound. That right there is profound because, ooh, like you don't know when you're going to get that call. You don't know when you talked about in your story, you talked about the gift of notice. And
Yeah,
and people take for granted when they get that, we take for granted when we get those that call of, okay, your cholesterol's high, or you've got cancer, or you've got this, or you've got that, or whatever diseases or whatever we have, any, even if you're told we're laying you off today. We
yeah,
talk about death, but let's talk about life. Like, we're laying you off. And so we're giving you 2 weeks. The gift of notice, the gift of, you've got an opportunity if you're not living to live, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm. So you
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we. I don't know if we even want notice. To some degree. I think, um, but having a gift of notice or putting you on notice
mm-hmm.
is different, right? Some people get the gift of notice. People say, "Man, you got the diagnosis, like, and like you kind of know you have a time." Well, no, it's a gift. Actually, you can look at it as a gift. I mean, because many of us, um, many people leave this world without notice.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want notice or not, that's another discussion.
Right.
But being put on notice
Whew.
that there is a notice, but
Mhm.
that there is a day that will come, is a gift in and of itself. And I had that gift. I had the gift of being put on notice that, oh, just a reminder to
Mm,
and that this day is coming.
mm-hmm.
It might not be the day,
Nope.
but you need to be reminded that it is coming. And the choice ultimately is up to each of us. What do we want to do with the time that we have? I I think because we have come involved so much as a species
Mm-hmm.
that our arrogance
Mm,
puts us in a position to almost laugh at mortality,
mm-hmm.
to disregard it as second nature, not even second nature, something that actually is not does not carry the weight of importance as
Mm,
something of trivial means, honestly. And because of that arrogance, we exist in a space as opposed to live in a space that allows us to really take full joy out of life in the way that I believe it was created to be.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and then we've talked a lot in the last few weeks. So you're right. So we talked a lot in the last few weeks, like you talk about, okay, whether we get noticed or not. And I just love the way that you just said this earlier in what you just said. I love the way you said that, when we get noticed, it doesn't matter whether we want it or not. If we get it, like you received the notice and you were not upset because of your of dying or the thought of dying. You were upset about the thought of not, because you weren't living. But let's move on to presence for a minute. I noticed that in the story you talked about how the first thing when you got the news, or when they kind of told you what the potential was for what was going to happen, you said, I wanted to take a drink. You said, first thing I thought was I need to drink, but you said, but there was one problem. I had stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And your intention, your intention and your cognizance to decide, your decision, your mindset to decide, I want to be present for this. You knew that there was an alternative, but you made a decision. You made your mindset was, I want to be available to experience and to hold on to every moment that is going to affect me in these moments that are pivotal in my growth. Because the idea is you really don't know what the doctors say to you can be, okay, you've got 3 months, but God can say something different. He can say, you got 6 years. You spend those 3 months drinking your life away, um, then you're not preparing yourself for the possibility of the longer extension of your life. So I love the fact that you decided, to like stay in the moment and stay present so that you could be ready for the next steps of what God has for you. Because what I think that people don't realize is that when you get that that gift of notice from God, that you still have living to do, even if you have only 3 days. You still have living that you need to do, a phone call to make, an apology to give. You still have to be present, because you never know what the purpose is in even being told or given that gift of living, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone experiences this differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not easy
Mm-mm.
for many of us to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me, it's personal from the standpoint of I just in that moment
Mm-hmm.
realized that my affairs just weren't in order.
Mm.
Period. Like from business affairs, family affairs, my
Mm-hmm.
personal affairs, in the sense of there were just things that I know that I needed to have already completed.
Mhm. Mhm.
I had not completed. I
Mm.
believe that there are many of us that are walking around right now, and we create excuses for why we're not doing things, completing certain things that we know that we need to complete.
Mhm.
Not just check a box or just to, but because it is something that is within us that we told ourselves that we would do,
Mm.
because it's going to make us feel better and contribute something to this thing we call the world.
Right.
In that moment, in my personal moment, it was like, yo, like, you've not done those things, you've not prepared yourself and your family, any, like, you've just not handled your business.
Mhm.
So when people talk about being scared of death, I often wonder, is it that you're scared of death, or is it or that you are sickened that you haven't been living?
Right.
Because for me personally, and I can't get into anybody else's mind or heart,
Right. Right.
I know that when I shifted from being scared of death and said, you know what, I'm going to do these things, put these affairs in order, do the things that I told myself I was going to do. Like, I'm going to start doing those things because that's living for me. Once I started doing those things, when I then started really reflecting on whether or not I was scared anymore of death, it wasn't that I'm not scared anymore. Like, I'm, I want to be here.
Mhm.
Right. So that kind of makes me feel bad to think about not being here, but not as much as it used to. I
Mhm.
feel now even better, though, that I've done some of the things that I knew in my heart that I needed to do for myself and for others in order to live. And
Mhm.
now the idea of being scared of death is not about being scared of death anymore. I actually rejoice in the fact that I'm living, and there's a stark difference. I think there's a thin line for many of us who are scared,
Mhm.
dying, or are
Mhm.
sickened because we're not living.
Mhm.
And I believe if we just shift just a little bit and begin to do a few of those things that will create something within us that brings us joy in living, that our affairs, and I don't just mean the business stuff, but our affairs
Mhm.
are in order, and
Mhm.
that we're living life as if it is not a dress rehearsal, then being scared to death is the least of our concerns,
Mhm.
because there's so much rejoicing in the act of living.
Right. And the idea is that, like you said earlier on, all of us have an expiration date, like
Yeah,
all of us. And so, it's going to happen. So to be afraid of something that's inevitable is kind of counterproductive to why we should be here and living, right?
yeah,
So, one of the things, one of my favorite speeches of all times is I've been to the mountaintop, MLK.
yeah,
And I listened to that when I was little, and then I listened to it in my 40s, and it has so much more meaning to me as I live on a daily basis, and it brings me to tears now. I could listen to it before, because my mom used to make us listen to and watch his speeches all the time. I could listen to before, and I would listen to it and just be like, oh my God, here she comes again every year. Like, why? And now that I'm older, I get it. And I love to listen to it. Like sometimes when I'm working, Glenn, I literally play that speech to keep me motivated to keep moving. Because he's not just talking about, he's talking about like, I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid to keep moving. I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of not living. I'm afraid of not doing all I can for social injustice. And
yeah.
so I mean, for peace is what he's
Mhm.
saying. And so I love that speech. But when we dig down into a lot of what you said, that was the shortest chapter, but I feel like your heart was really in this was the shortest chapter, but I feel like your heart was really in this chapter. My mom was saying we are on a daily notice, we don't accept it, like, but we don't accept that we are in a daily notice. But here we go back again talking about mindset. So
Yeah.
instead of, focusing and pressing in on dying, moving and focusing in and pressing in on living and not depending on that other lifetime, that mysterious other lifetime that we don't know. And if it does exist, we don't know what God has for us in that lifetime. But I know that what is happening in this time, we all have a purpose to serve in the communities that we live in the environments that we are in, within our families. So just sitting around waiting for the next lifetime is, like I said before, counterproductive to the idea of living within our purpose right now. So one of the things that you said when you were talking about greatness, and oh my God, when you said begin every day with gratitude, and we talk about this all the time, you said extend at least one act of unconditional kindness every single day. Talk about living. Glenn, I want you to talk about what does that do for us as we live, rather than focusing on what we don't have, focusing on what we can give to back to our communities and to who we are and what we are to this universe right now.
Yeah, let me first say, like, I'm not batting 1,000 with this, right? So it's not something that I literally am able to accomplish every day, but it's something that I consciously think about.
Intent, right?
Right? It's intent. It's intention.
Mm-hmm.
These may sound so simple, but people know, like, we've got to understand it's the simplicity of it that actually is it will transform your way of really seeing and receiving the blessing in it. There's just simply no pure way that if you exhibit one act of kindness, and specifically to someone you don't know, a day, literally one act of kindness, at least one. There's just no way you can't feel alive. And within feeling alive, understanding the pure joy in being a blessing to somebody else. They didn't ask for it. They didn't require it from you. It was literally just because you made a decision to do so. The act of being a blessing to somebody else will literally transform the way you live your life. If you force yourself for 5 days straight to exhibit one act of kindness to a stranger,
oh yeah,
your life will be transformed at the end of the week. I say it without any hesitation, without any being hyperbolic. Like, literally, your life will be transformed if you do it just for 5 days. 5 days straight, just kindness. If you have an ounce of a heart, it'll shift the way you show up in the world. It will shift the way you literally think about living, as opposed to just being alive.
And an ounce to us could be a gallon to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Or a ton to somebody else. And so not overthinking it, right? And talking to us about, Glenn, what are we talking about when we say an act of kindness? So when we're talking about act of kindness, using your gift, it doesn't have to be financial, folks. We're not telling you to go and give 1,000. I hear you, mama. We're not talking about giving 1,000 or $1 million. We've talked about this. To 1,000 or $1 million to somebody. We're literally talking about just saying, you rock. You're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's open. It's keeping the door open for somebody at the grocery store.
Yes.
It's complimenting someone that you see in the hallway. They look like they got the shiny shoes, or they look like that you got their dress to impress today. It's it's listening to someone uh, at work or in line at the dry cleaners who looks like they're having a bad day, and you reassuring them it's going to be okay.
Yes.
Acts of kindness show up in the most simplest, purest, littlest doses that
Small.
can literally shift that person's spirit.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why small acts of kindness are so powerful is because we don't understand the ripple effect of that one act. We
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the exponential effect that happens and the effect that will ultimately happen down that ripple. It
Mm-hmm.
only takes a small dose.
A small dose.
And that we feel sometimes as though we have to do big make big acts and gestures of kindness or love, when all we need to start the ripple is one push of that little domino.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the dominoes fall, when you see those big
Oh,
domino features and they have thousands of dominoes, and I mean, like, oh man, people are so amazed at how it happens, but it's the one domino that starts it off. It's the one push.
right.
It's pushing that one domino, that little one domino out of
Mm-hmm.
thousands that starts a ripple that we can possibly, but we most likely will never ever see that ripple. But it's the most powerful thing that you can do.
Right. And like my mom is saying here, just saying to somebody, how are you? And listening. Because how often do we say, how are you doing? And we keep walking. Or we'll say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah,
And we carry on with our day. But
yeah,
actually listening to a person give an authentic response to the answer, the question, how are you today? Asking a person in the morning in the line when you go to Starbucks, saying to that person, hey, how are you doing? Have an amazing day. You could be given a classroom full of kids an amazing day because you made that teacher realize that teacher is cared for, that there are good people in this world that still cares about the people that show up in front of them every single day. And it reminds them too that the reason that they do what they're doing is so that they can become the adult that actually cares about people and who they are. I mean, about people and how they treat others. And that's the amazing thing about it. But let me say this too about something you said, Glenn. You said here that it also says it's a yes to more. And more doesn't mean more stuff. Here's where gratitude is, right?
yeah.
So thinking I have enough love to give. Listen, I have enough love and joy inside of me to share because it's always going to be replenished because it's inside of me. I don't have to worry about anybody taking it all, stealing it all from me. It's yes to more, and more doesn't mean more stuff. More means more of the abundance of joy and fulfillment that God has in store for you. What
Yeah.
people, listen, guys, listen to me. What you don't realize that what Glenn is saying here is that you don't have to worry about running out of joy. You
No.
don't have to worry about giving it all away because God is constantly replenishing that in you. And what you don't realize is that joy, love, gratitude, all of that is cyclical. And what it happens is the more you give it, the more it comes back. The more you give it, the more it's replenished in the world. The more you give it, the more it's recycled. Understand that.
Listen, I was listening. I listened to a few people. Only a handful of people I really listen to on social media, and Eric Thomas is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have different styles. He's more kind of raw in your face, and I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
That's not my style.
Yeah.
But I love listening to him, and he's a minister as well, and I
Mhm.
love hearing him. But he was sharing a while back. I was listening to him talk about givers and takers, and he was like, "Listen, if you're a taker in this world, you're dispensable." Like,
Ooh.
and he was like, I don't care about hurting people's feelings, but if you're a taker,
Mm-hmm.
you're dispensable. And listen, this is real talk. This is just 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
And people who live this understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Givers,
Mm-hmm.
those who literally seek to be blessings to others.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want a day in their life.
Never.
They don't want a day in their life.
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
Look, if you are a faith person, if you
Mm-hmm.
believe in a higher power, you got
Mm-hmm.
to understand that the universe that we are all we are connected.
Mm-hmm.
One action to another action,
Mm-hmm.
one being to another being. When you are a giver, it is impossible for you to want.
Oh, right.
The universe receives you in a different way
Mm-hmm.
because you are so intent on giving of yourself and being a blessing to others. The universe, God, the spirit of the giver, it comes back to you tenfold. And you don't have to ask for that though.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the spirit, the nature of being a blessing to others. Not through condition, but through desire
But through
to be a
design.
blessing.
Mm.
And this whole idea of being scared of death, I believe, and not really relishing in life and joy,
Mm-hmm.
I believe is not solely connected to this, but I do believe is part and parcel connected to the fact that if you are a taker,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough for you to live in joy.
Right.
It's it's not easy to live in joy when you are a taker. But when you are a giver, when you understand the true meaning of giving, of being a blessing to others, then joy is an abundance in you. And yes to more is yes to that abundance because of your spirit of giving.
Mm-hmm.
I I think that we like to get conditional and transactional with God's words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the spirit of giving and taking.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing conditional or transactional about it.
Nope.
And so when we talk about being present and living a life of joy and living a life that you were meant to live, to me, it starts in the spirit of, are you a giver or are you a taker?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone should ask themselves that.
Well, I think that also what people need to understand is that takers are needy. They're always in need of something that they don't feel that they have inside of them. And I say that very, very, very like I say that not even loosely. I don't say that loosely. Like if you are a taker, you always need, because people can't possibly
Yeah.
give you
Yep.
everything that you need, because all of those things you weren't designed, people weren't designed to be that you weren't designed to be a taker, you weren't designed to be needy. And
Yep.
so God gave you those things, they're deep inside of you, and I say this on purpose, that you don't feel that you have, because it's there. You just have to learn how to tap into it. You have to learn how to access it, because what you're doing is you're trying to access it in others, and they weren't designed to be able to give you that. So takers are always needy. They're needy people. They always need something from you, because they're always unhappy. So you're right, Glenn. We all need to ask ourselves, are we takers or are we givers? And I think it's an idea of, like people always say takers just love themselves, but I don't even think that's it. I think that you need to find love within yourself, because if you loved yourself, then you would understand that you don't need other people to replenish something that you've already got inside of you. You would understand that inside of you, you are made of love. And so, I think that this is something of self-reflection that we should challenge everybody to think about in all of their actions and everything that we do in the next week until Glenn and I are back with you, is to ask yourself, am I a taker or a giver? Is my action right now of taking or of giving? Or instead of asking yourself, how can I receive from this situation? How can I give into the situation? Or how can I give into this opportunity, rather than what can I get out of it? So I think that that's a great idea, Glenn. I think we ought to challenge everybody to reflect, to have to take an introspective assessment of, who we are in this lifetime, and within are we givers or takers?
Yeah, I know what people sometimes when I hear people, sharing this idea of giving and taking and what it means, and I'm not going to give to people who take advantage of me and whatnot. And we're not getting in that space right now. What we're talking about is stop being conditional and transactional with your gift of
With
love
your gifts,
and
stop
your
expecting
gift.
something in return for
Don't
right.
worry about it. Well, I left him two. I can't give him that. I can't give him more than 15% tip. Why not? Like, I mean, you got it. I'm gonna need my change back. Give it to him. What's going?
Give
Is
it
it
to
gonna break you? I can't. I can't have that conversation with a person that's just gonna talk my head off, and I'm just not in the mood. Well, you might be the person that saves them from taking the step that can lead to something even worse for themselves.
right, right.
Well, I just want us, this is again, we're not talking about putting yourself in harm's way, or we're not talking about depleting yourself fully where you have nothing to give. But this is about being cognizant that we need each other.
We need each other. Yes.
We need each other. And because we need each other, we must do things that sometimes it feels very like uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Selfless acts are not always comfortable.
Nope.
And the fact is that because we are one,
Mm,
we are literally one.
mm-hmm.
We are not all on full at the same time.
Nope. And sometimes we are surrounded by people that are on empty, and we can't expect them to give us things that they don't have. But we've been placed in those positions to give, because God knows that we've got it to give. We've got it.
So the next time you're in a position, you're taking the next few days to
Mm-hmm.
Renee's point, thinking about being a giver or a taker, but also this time that presents itself, this moment that presents itself that says to you, this person may be on empty.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to use my tank
Mm.
to help fill them up a little bit more?
Amen. Amen.
Do I know them? You don't have to. Do they deserve it? Who are you to say?
Who are you to decide if they deserve it or not?
Who are you to say they deserve it?
Right,
The fact
right.
of the matter is that we are one, and when someone's on empty and they need a top off, right? You just need just put a little bit in, just a little bit of tank. I don't have enough to fill them up, but I have enough to put a little bit of something there so they don't feel depleted.
Right.
Then ask yourself if that's the time for you to be the giver that you were born to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it.
And that's it.
That's it.
Mhm.
Like, let's assess, evaluate our hearts this week. Let's put some, if you have the intention of, let's not say, and here's another thing. Let's move from do I take? Let's do this, Glenn. Let's move from do I take or do I give? Because I don't want us to label ourselves as takers or givers, because I want us to realize that it only takes 5 days, a day of kindness to say, I give, rather than I'm a giver or I'm a taker. So I want us to focus on the action, because the action can be changed. Who we are, what we do can also be changed, but I want us to focus on the action of giving. Okay, guys? So this is your this is your challenge this week. Okay, you got 3 challenges. Challenge 1, buy it, read it, do something with it, study it is even better. Okay, that's the challenge 1. Challenge 2, buy it, receive it, do something with it this week. And the third challenge, oh, I don't know, that might be too heavy, but the third challenge is 5 days of kindness. You got 4 challenges. And assess, do I give or do I take on a consistent basis? Okay. Saying thank you does not count. One time does not count. But if you do it 5 days in a row, that counts. So giving to somebody, even when they've been rude to you, is especially. To somebody, opening the door when somebody doesn't open the door for you or hold the door for you, hold the door and open the door for the next person. Anyway.
I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in it for people when
Uh-oh.
they ask, do they give or do they take?
Uh-oh.
Because many of us give, but we give what we want to give.
Woo!
So I want you to ask yourself,
exhausted. Look.
I want you to ask yourself, are you giving to those of what people need, not what you want to give?
That part. That part. That part.
Because I believe many of us give.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the lion's share of us give. But are we focusing on what people need? Because many of us we give money all the time. Because we have an abundance of it.
Right.
But we real stingy with our time.
Ooh, time, patience.
We real stingy with our love. We're real stingy with our network. We're really stingy with a lot of things that really can be of more value to the person, depending on who that person may be. So asking yourself, are you a giver is one thing, but asking yourself, are you a giver of what others need?
Of what others need. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Staying up late to talk to a friend that needs your attention right now. Calling them tomorrow is not maybe what they need, because tonight they need to have a good night's sleep as well. So yeah, giving them what they need at the time that they need it. And asking yourself, is it going to, like my mom's, like we said, is it going to break you? Is it going to break you to do that, to give? So we got a lot to think about this week. And this week's topic was a bit heavy, but it doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be heavy if we're doing the work. It's not a heavy load if we're not carrying, like it's only a heavy load if we carry it and don't put it down. Like we gotta put it down, pull it apart, analyze it, and then do the action, do the work to become a better community for the people around us, for our kids, for our descendants, for the people who changing generational curses. Let's get this done, folks. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's change who we are so we can be a better person today for the people who will see us tomorrow, or the people who will be a part of us tomorrow. That's what this is all about, is the people we lead. making sure that they're in a good space by our
Definitely.
own actions. Okay. Glenn, do you have any final words for us tonight besides y'all need to get y'all some
No, I just think,
summer reading list.
I think I think again, if you have just a moment to ask yourself, are you scared of death or are you sickened that you aren't living? I think that's a starter question for people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really ask yourself, are you really living? And if you're really scared of death, like why? Why are you so scared of death?
Are you afraid of death?
Um,
Mm,
what is that about? It may not be, about being sickened by living. It might be something else. I don't know. But I just understand that living is a state in which I believe we take for granted, and in our arrogance, we don't think twice about death other than we know it's real.
mm-hmm.
But being human, we have an arrogance about ourselves that says, not me, not now. There's something about that that's holding someone back.
Yep.
There's something about that's putting someone in a position where they feel as though good getting by is good enough. But
Mm-hmm.
in fact, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're tired of getting by and you really want to lean in on living right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's time to ask yourself some tough questions and not just ask questions. Start figuring out the answers.
We got that. That is a very thank you so much, Glenn. And thank you everyone for tuning in with us every week
Yep.
for Healthy Things Grow. Welcome, YouTube
Yep.
followers. Thank you so much for joining us as well. We look so forward to meeting with you again next week, Glenn. It'll be Glenn and we don't know, maybe a special guest. We don't know yet. But but Renee is making moves. So literally. And so we look forward to seeing you guys next week. We've got a new book on the shelf, y'all. Look, let me tell you something. Hard Work Leadership Group ain't playing with y'all. We didn't sit around for COVID. We did not sit around for COVID.
We're not playing games.
We are not playing games. So we've got a third book coming. Shoot them out one by one. Listen. Live today, y'all. Look at this. See that book? Live today. Live today.
Go grab it on Amazon.
Go grab it on Amazon. Mama, you heard that? I care for you. You care for me. I love you. I need you to survive. In the words of Kirk Franklin, we love you guys.
Rude.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.